Never a dull moment. Breaking news. With the flurry of the NFL draft over, the 49ers have signed another player. This one with Bay Area ties. This one, his signing hinted at by John Lynch at the conclusion of the NFL draft.
As for not drafting a safety, there were some guys that came off, and look, this thing's still going on. We've got some free agents and all that. We've got a group that we really do like, but kind of the way the board fell, it just didn't work out. And love what we were able to add. The work's not over.
And that work continues with the 49ers signing of Patrick McMorris, a safety selected by the Miami Dolphins in the 6th round of the 2024 draft out of Cal. Was most recently with the New York Giants, became a free agent earlier this month, and the 49ers, as promised, have hopped onto a veteran safety. I think this is far from their last move of the offseason, and we'll see if McMorris can find a home again in the Bay Area. He was with Cal for one season as a graduate transfer. That was in 2023. Both of his brothers played for the Golden Bears as well. I actually know Malik McMorris, who played for them last decade and is now a community college coach at Diablo Valley College in the East Bay. So football family from Orange County. Patrick McMorris, as you typically see from youngest brothers, had to work against bigger and stronger older brothers, and that helped develop him into the best athlete of the family. Being drafted into the NFL at any round is no joke, and now we will get to see what happens to that 49ers safety position. If you peek at the depth chart, the 49ers, as far as 53-man projections go, Malik Mustafa, obviously, Marquise Siegel, the second-year man out of Kansas State, obviously. And then there's Jair Brown entering the final year of his rookie deal. The 49ers in the past have typically carried 4 safeties on the 53, so that's why the position has been identified as one of need for the 49ers. Of course, they drafted a former safety, but he's now a linebacker, and they envision him as a linebacker in Jaden Duggar. That happened in the 5th round of this recent NFL draft. But Jaden's an interesting player because I've called him a rover at 6'4". He's a little bit taller than Fred Warner with 35-inch arms. Well, he could play a number of different positions. He could be a pass rush specialist as well. In fact, he has played on the outside.
Duggar was a cool prospect. Interesting story. Went to Georgetown as a safety. After 2 years, goes to Lafayette and is playing kind of an edge. This year, they moved him to linebacker. Plays some over the slot. So 84.5-inch wingspan, 35-inch arms. Really intriguing dude. And we just want to get him in the building. I think there's impact he can make right away, but then development that we really believe he can be a really fun player to work with and a really impactful player for our team.
So the Duggar pick combined with the Ephesians Prysock pick, that's a cornerback who's 6'3". Now, combined with the 49ers' ongoing work at safety, this is all giving us more of an idea of what Raheem Morris plans to do as the 49ers' new defensive coordinator. Now, the most cerebral, nuanced hints are going to come from the safety position because that is essentially the quarterback of the defense in terms of silent communication. Fred Warner has the radio in his helmet at the Mike linebacker, and he's going to be barking out orders, and he's going to be hearing directly from Raheem Morris on the play call, so he has to relay that to the rest of the defense. But the position that sees everyone, that has all 10 other guys in his vision, is the deep safety. And the 49ers like to run interchangeable safety, so they don't have one free, one strong safety that is in the same spot on every down. It's going to be back and forth. But in general, the safety position is the one that has to have all bases covered as far as who goes where. Safety position sees the offensive alignment relative to what the defense is bringing to the table, I think, with the biggest picture of views on a down-in, down-out basis. Therefore, communication coming from the safety is extremely important. And people don't usually register this from the outside because it's not really verbal from the safety. A lot of it is just going to be hand signals, and a lot of it's going to be recognition and then talking to guys in between snaps. But it is a very, very important extension of what the defensive coordinator wants. And we know that Raheem Morris is a DB-oriented guy. We know that he brought in a new DB coach in Jerry Gray. We know that back in the day, John Lynch, 49ers GM, he's a safety. He's a Hall of Fame safety. He actually played at Patrick McMorris' rival school of Stanford. You know, funny little tangent story. John Lynch switched over to safety because he started as a quarterback at Stanford, and the way that he was able to extend his football career was a move to safety. Bill Walsh encouraged him to return instead of playing baseball or going pro in baseball, and then John Lynch turned into that Hall of Fame safety because he saw the field, I think, from a quarterback's vantage point. I think the background as a QB really, really helped John Lynch zero in on opposing offenses as a safety over the course of his NFL career. Anyway, Patrick McMorris, smart, instinctive player. Somebody who had a few interceptions at Cal, had an interception in the preseason for the Miami Dolphins after he was drafted there in the 6th round. Someone who had a nice forced fumble. When you go watch the Cal tape against Auburn, they opened their season against Auburn in 2023 at Memorial Stadium. I remember laying down in bed in Pittsburgh before the 49ers beat the crap out of the Steelers. You know, Eastern time, it's much later. It was a night game to begin with at Cal, and they ended up losing to Auburn. Lombardi herself's alma mater, by the way. But they ended up losing narrowly to Auburn, but Patrick McMorris flew in from a deep safety position and knocked the ball away right before the ball carrier went down. It was a nice little peanut punch. So he's a smart player. He's an instinctive player. Not a great athlete. Didn't run the 40 in the lead up to the 2024 NFL draft, but did score decently well in the 3-cone, agility, short shuttle, those drills. I'm not sure what he would have run in the 40. I don't think he exactly pops off tape as a burner, but many times instincts are what earn you the job at the safety position. In fact, a guy that runs a 4.2 that doesn't have an instincts is not going to stick in the league. I'm sure 49ers fans remember Taylor Mays back in the Jim Harbaugh era. The all everything built like Adonis, runs a 4.3 safety out of USC, played for Pete Carroll. And then, funny enough, Pete Carroll didn't want to draft him with the Seattle Seahawks because Pete had left to be an NFL coach. And the 49ers drafted Taylor Mays in the 2nd round and never became anything in the NFL. Dwayne Aquina, the former great Texas DB coach who developed Earl Thomas, speaking of the Seattle Seahawks. Then he went on to Stanford to be a DB coach. Their successful one everywhere that he went. Also worked with the Desert Swarm defense in Arizona. Dwayne Aquina, he had a great way of telling me how it works with defensive backs. He said, if you have instincts but run a 4.6, you'll probably get into the league and you'll be able to be a special teams guy, maybe a backup. If you don't have instincts and you run a 4.3, yeah, well, maybe you'll be a special teams guy, but your career probably won't be all that long. But if you have instincts and you run a 4.3, well, then invite me onto your yacht a little bit later on because you're going to be rich. You're going to be an Earl Thomas. You're going to be somebody who's able to deliver a Hall of Fame career. If you have both instincts and a 4.3, well, that's perfect. We don't know exactly what Patrick McMorris runs. It's not a 4.3. Probably closer to the 4.6. I think that, I don't slot him in as a 53-man player, but he is smart. And if he does fit the vision that Raheem Morris wants from his safeties, and we're going to learn more about the exact communication and the exact spots that he wants his guys to be in. If he does fit that, then he does have a chance to play for the 49ers, does have a chance to contribute. That's the only reason why they brought him in to be a member of this 90-man roster. Now, as far as pre-existing guys go on this 49ers roster, it's going to be a fascinating season because Malik Mustafa was so good as a rookie in 2024, but he tore his ACL in that final game. His coverage allowance was minuscule, though, in 2024. As expected, though, he was not quite as good in 2025. And the 49ers also had a much worse pass rush in 2025. Only 20 sacks, which was a league low. They have completely reconstructed their defensive line, which is something that I'm going to get deeper into. But remember, everybody was all up in arms at the start of the 2025 offseason when they were cutting guys off of a bad defense. I don't know why people were upset about that. But, as I pointed out, the 49ers had a defense that was the line that was comprised of a lot of free agents. You got to build that line through the draft. You look at the Rams formula, they built it through the draft over 2 seasons. The Eagles have always built their defensive line through the draft. Well, the 49ers, to get that hunger and that youth back, that energy back, they had to build through the draft over the past 2 seasons. And you can see that, between Michael Williams, Romello Height, Alfred Collins, CJ West, Grayson Halton, I would even say Osa Odigizua. They used the draft pick, a 3rd rounder, to trade with the Dallas Cowboys for him. That is a defense that the 49ers have built through the NFL draft. And the line is transformed. I think that's really going to help the safeties on this San Francisco 49ers team, because you're actually going to have a pass rush in front of you. Now, so Malik, a year further removed from the ACL, great. Marquise Siegel, he was the best tackler of this 49ers defensive backfield last year, out of the safeties last year. The only guy with a missed tackle rate under 10% coming from safety, but he just gave up too much at the point of catch in coverage. Can he take that next step in coverage? Because that's why Siegel got benched last year. He's got the physical traits to play, to deliver good angles. And we saw all of that in run support and tackling after the catch. But it's about coverage, or else you can't be on the field consistently. And the 49ers will hope that Siegel can take those strides in 2026. I look at Jair Brown as a lame duck player, somebody who had, great instincts on tape in college, and has shown some of them in the pros. But with a 4.6, 4.7 40, he wasn't fast coming out of Penn State. The athleticism is limited for Jair. Now, maybe he fits into Raheem Morris's vision more than people anticipate, but this is a contract year. This is the end of the road as far as the rookie deal goes for Jair Brown. And we know that Robert Saleh badly wanted more speed at safety, which is why they brought in Jason Pinnock, why Malik Mustafa and Marquise Siegel were considered higher on the pecking order to begin last year than Jair Brown. But veteran experience ended up winning out. We will see what Morris thinks of Brown, but Morris now has McMorris on the team, somebody who has played some NFL reps, and we'll see how Patrick McMorris figures into that safety position as well. 49ers also brought in more of a strong safety, more of a box kind of guy, and Jalen Stroman, who runs a 4.7, undrafted free agent out of Notre Dame. I would be surprised if Jalen, though, was able to make a strong 53-man roster push just because of the lack of speed that we've seen on tape and in testing. And then the 49ers have a couple carryovers from last year on 1-year deals. The 2 Derricks, Derek Canteen and Derek Forrest. That rounds out the safety room. 49ers might not be done yet. In fact, you know what? Why don't we just say this? This is the prediction, and Mike came up with this one first. Jesse Bates, Pro Bowl safety, still with the Falcons. Raheem Morris has coached him. Maybe the 49ers trade for Jesse Bates before the deadline this coming season. Or, safety, this kind of binds everything together. It's a position where the 49ers and any team, I think, really needs a cerebral mind, somebody that is conveying what the coaching staff, the defensive coordinator wants. It's something that's a little bit harder to just gauge based on explosiveness and the obvious highlights on tape. You just need somebody who's in the right place, who gets guys into the right positions. Deshaun Gibson Sr., when the 49ers signed him, it was about a week before the 2022 season. He ended up being a Pro Bowl caliber safety for the 49ers, even on the wrong side of 30, because he knew where to be. And the 49ers led the league in interceptions there for a couple of seasons in 2022 and 2023. You need guys who know where to be. The pass rush helps. The 49ers have rebuilt that defensive line. So I think matters are moving in the right direction. And the latest piece that the 49ers will experiment with is the local kid, Santa Ana, Orange County, but the local kid as far as Cal goes, their new signee, Patrick McMorris.
That our flag was still here. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner